Well, good afternoon, distinguished guests and ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you all for coming on a Sunday to hear about this important topic, the general topic, America at a Crossroads, and to honor the fallen heroes of Benghazi. I'm very grateful to Beth Heath and the Benghazi committee, the Benghazi team, for keeping this alive, for year after year honoring these brave men and ensuring that the truth is told. I wish we would have some media here, but it's quite frankly no surprise we don't. So on September 12, 2012, before the sun rose, my phone started ringing from Libya, and many people were calling me to tell me the terrible news of what had happened in Benghazi. And in total outrage for what had happened to my friend, Chris Stevens, I started investigating it as a private citizen. And 3 weeks after the attack, I actually went to Libya. I was in Tripoli, there with the State Department, and I was doing a site assessment of the US Embassy in Tripoli. And just 3 weeks after the attack, and I'm walking around with the security officer responsible for protecting the embassy, and he's showing me all of the perimeter areas that lack basic CCTV cameras. My home has better security than our embassy in Tripoli 3 weeks after the attack, and they still had very serious deficiencies. So I said to him, why can't you get cameras in these areas so that you can watch the movement on the perimeter? And he said, well, the State Department denies our funding. You know what I said to him? I said, well, I'm gonna go back to Washington. I'm gonna open a lemonade stand outside of Capitol Hill. And gosh darn it, we're gonna raise money so that we can get proper cameras to protect our personnel overseas. Well, the situation in Libya deteriorated very fast after the attack. The embassy wound up closing, and we've been gone ever since. Now we have Ahmed Abu Khatala, the terrorist who we all know was taken from Libya, brought to the United States, immediately given his Miranda rights, and held in a federal court, the trial just concluding. I actually went and sat in on the trial, and I was surprised at how easy it was. I was in DC for other meetings, went over to the courthouse. It was a small courtroom, walked in, and here is Khatala sitting 20 feet from me. It was a surreal experience, listening to the DS agents testify about what happened that night, and hearing the defense run through its case, trying to disrupt the timeline. And I'm looking around this small courtroom, and I notice that there really is no one else there. Defense, prosecution, FBI, that's it, and the witnesses. No media. Nothing. It's as if it's a non-event. And I can't think of a more egregious and shameful thing than what happened in Libya, and to leave these men to die. And in fact, 40 Americans there were left to their own defenses. And after the fact, they pretend as if it doesn't matter. Well, it does matter. Benghazi matters. And I'm very grateful to these type of events to ensure that the truth will come out. Thank you for that. So my time has run really fast, and I haven't even gotten into what I need to say, so I apologize. Ahmed Abu Khatala was acquitted on 14 of the 18 charges. The only thing he was convicted of doing was providing material support to terrorism that resulted in deaths. He was acquitted on the most important charges, which were causing the deaths and the murder of Americans in the course of the attacks of the facilities. The count of the material support on terrorism does carry a life in prison sentence. However, the most important charges of causing the deaths he was acquitted on. He was also convicted on the charge of discharging a firearm to cause violence and destruction of property. So I just want to read real quick, a statement made by one of the heroes that night in response to the verdict and the trial. Chris Tanto Peranto said, and this really sums it up quite well, let's clear something up. Catella is being called the mastermind. He was a part of the operation, yes, but to call him the mastermind, I don't agree with that. He wasn't the guy. The thing that bothers me about Catella is that he was a commander in the Martyr 17 Brigade, a terrorist organization. The 17th Brigade was supposed to help us protect the consulate, and they were not vetted well. I told them, meaning the State Department, that they had jihadist groups at the compound. I mean, let that sink in a minute. Pretty unimaginable. So what does the Catella trial underscore? The Catella trial underscores the deficiencies of our civilian prosecution system to try enemy combatants. Foreign terrorists are enemy combatants and should not be afforded the same rights as we are. And finally, there are a few things I'd like to point out, which Roger pointed out accurately as well. Coming out of the Catella trial, what have we learned? A few things. First, there was a total failure of Secretary Clinton to provide adequate security for the compound. Total failure. And the Obama administration chose to engage known terrorists during and after the Libya revolution, some of whom apparently were tasked with guarding the Benghazi facilities, our facilities. At best, this is total incompetence. At worst, and what I believe is it's treason. Secondly, the Obama administration engaged in a cover-up, as we all know, claiming that it was an anti-Muslim video. We know it's hogwash. That's been disproved. And finally, Libyan authorities in Benghazi, some of whom were tied to the terrorists engaged in the attack, denied the FBI for 3 weeks access to the location for forensic examination. And this fatally compromised the FBI's ability to get physical evidence, ergo why enemy combatants should not be tried in our criminal system. So fundamentally, the environment which enabled the rise of terrorism, which resulted in the Benghazi attack, should not have happened in the first place. And I really look forward to hearing from Claire Lopez, a dear friend, and from Kevin Shipp, and from Dinesh D'Souza, a little bit more about what has happened to bring our nation to this point, and what can we do as good citizens and patriots to ensure that we right this ship. Thank you so much, and God bless America.